Seriously.
May I have your attention, please? I would like to call to order the Roscoe Village Board meeting Tuesday, January 16th, 2024. Let's all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Babcock,
Here.
Sima,
Here.
Clock,
Here.
Malakote,
Here.
Petty,
Here.
Wright,
Here.
Gustafson.
Here.
you.
Item number 4, public comment. Is there anyone who has any public comment to make? Anyone remotely? Item number 5, President's report. Just something very briefly. Next week, we belong to Region 1, and part of its organization is North Cog, the Council on Government. The Council on Government has asked us to identify some policy areas that are of importance to us. So what I will do before you leave this evening is I will make a copy of this and give it to each of you. So if you have something here, some feedback that you wish to give me as to what you think are major policy areas that we should ask them to advocate on our behalf, let them know. Okay. Thank you. Item number 6, Treasurer's Report. Mr. Olson.
So the bill submitted for approval on January 16, 2024. Total pooled cash and equivalents, 8,496,403. Then we have expenditures of 99,315, and then we had a prepaid of 720. So it gives us $100,035.05. We have the 12/30 payroll of 106,229.39. That's total general fund expenditures of 206,264.44. We had motor fuel. We started with $1,553,000 and $7.81. Found a little mistake down at the bottom there. So total expenditures $10,220.92, not the $5,963.75. So the remaining cash is $1,542,786.08 for motor fuel. It's for total expenditures of $216,485.36.
Anyone have any questions to ask? Mr. Olson? 6.2, may I have a motion to approve payment of the bills?
So moved.
For a second.
Second.
Anyone have any questions regarding any of the items on the list?
No questions, but I'll be no on Hazel Blank, 402.
I'll be a no as well.
So noted.
And then I do have one question, and I already asked Joe, I just wanted to clarify it for residents. How many more invoices will we get from you or law?
Or trustee Patty usually is the one who asks those, but I'm usually fairly
And
organized.
when will be the last day we have to pay?
I think there's 2 more invoices left there, so it'll be the next, everything will be done in the next meeting. We'll
Okay.
have everything on that. For 23 services, that will be closed out.
Any other questions or comments? Calling for the vote, please.
Babcock,
Yes.
Clock,
Yes.
Malakote,
Yes.
Wright,
Yes.
Petty,
Yes.
Sima.
Yes.
Item 7.1, may I have a motion to approve the minutes from the January 3rd, 2024 Village Board meeting?
So moved. Second.
Any additions, comments, questions, corrections? Hearing none, call for the vote, please.
Sima,
Yes.
Malakote,
Yes.
Petty, Petty,
Yes.
Babcock,
Yes.
Wright,
Yes.
Clock.
Abstain.
Thank you.
Item 8.1, may I have a motion to approve ordinance 2024-01, increasing the maximum number of authorized Class D liquor licenses to 2.
So moved.
Second.
Questions? comments?
Malaco, sorry,
Yes.
Clock,
Yes.
Babcock,
Yes.
Wright,
Yes.
Petty,
Yes.
Simon.
Yes.
Item 8.2, may I have a motion to approve issuing a Class D license for consumption on premises of beer and wine, liquor license to Pietro's of Roscoe, doing business as Pietro's Pizzeria at 5724 Elevator Road.
So moved.
Second.
Sima,
Yes.
Petty,
Yes.
Wright,
Yes.
Clock,
Yes.
Malaco,
Yes.
Babcock.
Yes.
Item 9.1, may I have a motion approving resolution 2024-03, authorizing the village to enter into a professional services agreement with Place Foundry related to the creation of a master plan for the development of Main Street, Roscoe.
So moved. Second.
Questions, comments, clarifications?
Which option?
It will be option 2. And option 2 is at the 6,500 a month or 78,000 for a year, but first 2,565 is deducted because of our first meeting. And you have within your docs the timeline and the deliverables for option 2, beginning with next week. So hit the ground running here. You want to take a minute to look at them if you have any questions about that timeline?
Let's label page 8.
Mhm.
This will be focused on, this will be focused on the Main Street project. They'll come in, they'll start working with us, start working with when we initially meet with them, sort of get general idea of what the plan is for that. Then we'll start meeting with our board here, they'll start getting the public involved, they'll start working through the whole process to develop that into something, working with Bear Graham, the prior work that's been done. And throughout timeline, there's sort of maps out the whole process of that. But you notice, I mean, we're looking at least, this option, this timeline goes a little over a year, right? So it's not something that happens overnight, not something that happens instantly, but it's a developed
plan.
process, it's a plan, right? Putting in place, just getting that design, that structure in place.
I remember reading that one. It's Friday, maybe Saturday. I guess my question is, why didn't this go to committee of a whole first?
Because we discussed it, we had prior discussions of this, but it can certainly be legal. I think this one we discussed already, though. This one was already been discussed at
Could
the board or the committee or the board previously.
you send us all option 2?
Isn't it there in the docs?
Well, I'm having a hard time with my computer bringing it up.
I can give you that copy tonight.
All right, thank you.
How often will they be meeting with? Or,
I guess that's to be laid out
Yeah,
once we meet with them initially, and see how they're going to implement those. What the reporting will be, how timely it will be.
and then they would start?
Yeah. I think some of it's gonna be how often is the board want to meet with them, right? I mean, part of it's gonna be them sort of put things together, then them coming reporting to things. I'm sure there's gonna be additional sort of workshop type things where they get your input, you get the board's input, the public's input. Versus just, here's what we're doing, here's a presentation of what we're doing right now. So I think it's gonna be sort of a mix as we go through the different stages of it, the design stages.
And we could certainly report back on that once we meet with them and get it specifically nailed down as to, okay, this is what we're going to do first, and we'll have it by, I'm just throwing out a date, April 13th.
Have they given us X
February.
amount of meetings or, I mean, I don't want to
No,
overstate it.
no.
Okay.
For example, I have no idea how long it would take them to do the market analysis. So to say, okay, we can have that in a week would be arbitrary and I have no idea. How long it would take. So we'll find out those details once we meet with them, the organization.
Theoretically, if it took them 3 months, yeah, we want one, like, at the end of some of these steps, so I know that we made
Right.
our goals.
I think when we get that initial, I think that market analysis is gonna be sort of a big key portion of that too. Sort of what are we sort of aiming for? What do we think is missing in this area? What can we sort of expect or should we be targeting as we develop that Main Street? So I think that will be a big key area for you guys to hear, for the board to understand and to see as well. So,
So the agreement actually starts on 11, page 11.
yeah.
It's easier for you to find.
Any other comments, questions? Calling for the vote, please.
Babcock,
Yes.
Wright,
Yes.
Lima,
Yes.
Petty,
Yes,
Malaco,
Yes,
Clock.
Yes.
Item 9.2, we have a motion to approve resolution 2024-04, authorizing an agreement with Fair Graham for additional engineering design services and construction management and administrative services for the 2024 residential street program for the quoted amount of $45,200. Is there a second?
second,
And if you remember during our budget conversations, there was the desire to expand the residential street program to 2 additional streets in Hidden Creek. And so this number reflects additional design costs for those 2 streets and the construction oversight of the whole project, as well as testing once the asphalt is laid down.
So the design portion is the 4,900 for those 2 streets. So it's not the whole, that whole number is not just for those 2 streets, but design. It's
I
that.
thought this math.
No,
Yeah,
it was
it's like
the-
four-
I was like, wait a
No, no,
second.
no.
Oh,
it was the aggregate of all 3
Yeah.
things that I listed.
And then those 2 other portions that we've done previously as well. Fairground and Brandon's here if you have any questions about how it works, but
Yep, I
it's
can
the
explain
testing
those.
portions and it's.
So yep, as Joe stated, 4,900 is the additional design for the extra roadways. We are quoting 200 man hours, which equates to 25,300 for construction engineering. That is having somebody out on site at all times when the contractor is working, making sure that they're constructing things properly, measuring quantities for pay applications, things like that. And then also additional materials testing. So back in the last budget cycle, the board had approved $5,000 in materials testing. That was for pavement cores to determine the pavement thickness that we're working with. This additional 15,000 will be for the actual asphalt and potential concrete testing that we would do to maintain compliance with IDOT standards. So.
I want to on this too, if you recall, this is the 2024 project, so we had to engineer the same time as we did we approved the original scope of the engineering, the same time we did the 2023 project. So this is sort of the construction portion that we're approving now, as opposed to the design portions. We would probably do this all at the same time. But because we wanted to get a jump on the game a couple of years ago, at this point, this is why this is the 2024 project. It's just the construction portion now. We've already been design already that was approved a year ago, almost over a year ago. So that's sort of where we're at, or why we have this sort of a separate separate agreement, separate service that's coming through.
Just out of curiosity, Brandon, what does HMA stand for? when you-
Sorry, that is hot mix asphalt, so blacktop.
Simple, okay,
Sorry, should have clarified that, yep.
thank you. And do we have a motion and a second?
We do. Are you ready for me to call?
Yes.
Okay, Petty,
Yes.
Flock,
Yes.
Malaco,
Yes.
Babcock,
Yes.
Wright,
Yes.
Lima.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, under new business. Item 10.1. Once again, I'm going to ask that someone make a motion to suspend the rules. Again, it's a timing issue related to this grant deadline of February 28th, so I'd like to expedite this. Is there a motion to suspend the rules and make this a final vote for 10.1?
So moved.
Second.
Is there a motion to, oh, first we have to vote on the suspension. Correct?
Wright,
Yes.
Petty,
Yes.
Malaco,
Yes.
Flock,
Yes.
Lima,
Yes.
Babcock.
Yes.
Thank you.
I do. May I have a motion to approve resolution 2024-05, authorizing an agreement with Bear Graham and Associates for professional services related to the preparation and submission of an application for Department of Transportation raise grant for the quoted amount. Now, when the agenda went out,
We were narrowing down the scope. of the
so this amount and the resolution reflects the correct amount of $7,900.
And Brandon, we're going to have Brandon touch on.
Well,
The raise grant.
in a second. So is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
All right, the raise grant, Brandon, if you will explain to everyone what that is, please.
Yeah, it is a federal grant program that primarily focuses on projects that offer regional or local impact, bringing communities together as a whole. As part of this grant application, we will be submitting on the bike path project, Roscoe Road, connecting Old River Road all the way to downtown Main Street and the path network in downtown. So if you guys recall, we did submit a grant application for the Reconnecting Communities and Neighborhoods grant for that same project. Based on IDOT's notice of funding opportunity for this raise grant, any projects that were submitted to that grant, the RCN, received favorable consideration for this raise grant. So we are going to be essentially resubmitting the same project, and we do have to narrow down and make some changes to the project narratives as a whole. But essentially, we're going to be seeking funding for the engineering, design, and permitting for the project. So we're not going after construction funds right now. There are two separate portions of the raise grant, the capital construction and then the planning side. We are going after the planning side. Capital construction would be for actual construction costs of the project. We're not at that level yet. So we want to seek funding for the engineering and design. Part of that will require a good amount of coordination with the Winnebago County Highway Department. Roscoe Road is their roadway, so we want to make sure that the project that we're proposing on their road, they are, they know what's going on and they are agreeable to the project scope. But past that, as Carol stated, the grant application is February 28th. So assuming this is approved, we will hit the ground running and get that application in as soon as possible.
To also share some background information, pursuit of this began over the summer. There were meetings with our county board members, acquainting them with the desire to do this, as well as meeting with the Winnebago County Board Chairman and the engineer, asking if they also supported it. So we had that support before we went out for that first grant. So this is just step 3, I guess now, or step 4, if we lose count, of trying to pursue this goal. And one of the aspects of this was also the intergovernmental cooperation. So not only is it necessary because the road is the county, but the whole Department of Transportation wants to see that governments work together here to move people from point A to point B. All that being said, we have a first and a second, or motion and a second, correct?
Yes.
Any other questions, comments? Call for the vote, please.
Babcock,
Yes.
Lima,
Yes.
Hawk,
Yes.
Wright,
Yes.
Malaco,
Yes.
Petty.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. 10.2, again, I would like you to entertain a motion to suspend the rules and make this final vote. Resolution 2024-06, entering into an agreement with Civic Plus for the setup and annual subscription to its agenda and meeting management essentials software.
So moved.
What does this do for us?
Can we discuss it after the motion that's been? The vote on suspending the rules.
Who was the second? I'm sorry. There was a talk over.
Sue was.
Okay, thank you. Clock,
Yes.
Lima,
Yes.
Babcock,
Yes.
Malaco,
Yes.
Petty,
Yes.
Wright.
Yes.
Okay, motion to approve resolution 2024-06, entering into an agreement to have set up an annual subscription to software that assists in developing and publicizing agendas and managing our meeting essentials, meeting the documents. So we have a motion and a second, and then we'll discuss.
So moved. Second.
Okay, Joe, do you wish to explain that the layout is in your documents, but since you have a hard time getting to it, Joe, we explained how that correlates with what we
Currently, what we do for agendas is we have Word documents and we've shared folders and SharePoints, staff. Me manually types in the agenda items. Staff will move their things over to the board packets, move it over to shared folders. It's all manually tracked right now, all manually done, all manually moved across. When we get things going from committee to a board, that's all. Okay, make sure you remind yourselves to put it over across there, move documents across. This allows us to have a sort of an automated platform, or a platform for that matter, a one set spot that allows us to create agendas. For staff wise, for the staff portion of it, it allows us to create agendas in one area. Staff will be able to upload their documents into it. We'll hopefully have agendas created out further in advance than we do currently. I'd like to get items out to everybody a couple of weeks out and available to everybody a few weeks out ahead of time than we are currently doing it now. And not so manually. For the board and for the public, you'll have access to that portal. You'll get your documents right in front of you in this portal here. You'll be able to see the votes. You'll be able to see what the previous action was. If it's coming from ZBA, if it's coming from committee. You'll have those right in front of you. And then for the public, which is sort of a thing we talked about previously, is we'll have those board packets will then be available for the public prior to the meeting and as a night of the meeting. I know we've had requests before about this. We've talked about it before. The public will have access to just click on it to download that whole board packet with their staff reports, staff recommendations of it, and be able to follow along on all of that and have access to that as well. And have archived access directly just on the website. Here's the full board packet. What was in front of the board that night? And we'll have it locked down, so what the board gets that night is what will be in front of the board. As opposed to adding things at the last minute or moving things around or changing things. That's sort of a nice set, knowing what was in front of the board, what you have, and the public will have that access as well. So it just allows us to sort of have a central platform for all of our board documents and our agendas.
Yeah, I have a question to comment. One is, so right now, one of the things, communication with the public is, we should have this, I know we posted on the front there what the agendas are to meet our requirements on the Friday. It'd be nice if they were online by then.
Yeah.
So if we're able to meet that deadline of that Friday before the Tuesday,
And we currently, they should be always be on there currently on the Friday before the Tuesday, as it is.
On the website.
But
On the
you
list.
have to go look for it on the website and it's not as
Well,
easy to get to.
That's my second
Yeah.
question slash comment is the redesign of the
Yep.
website. The government, I mean, you go on the government thing pops up, it
Yep.
closes and it pops up, it closes.
Yes.
All that stuff, it's just not user friendly. I know we've been talking about the website
Yep.
redesign,
I'll
but
give you,
that needs to be like upfront in
Yeah.
the agenda on how to find things.
Yeah. that's, so there, so update on the website, since you brought that up. We originally were scheduled to have it sort of transitioned over and start our training on it and use it first week of January. That was the original plan. When we first approved this months ago, that was the timeline in the schedule. I got contacted Civic, find out where we're at on that. We haven't heard from them for a little bit on that. They had some issues on their end of it when they were moving all of our online documents, all of our current website into their platform. So they're off by about a week or two. So instead of having it this week, well, we should have it available and be training on it the end of the month here, end of January. So then available for the public, instead of having available for the public, January 1st or early January, like we had hoped originally, we should have it available early February. Live public release of that. And it does have on the very front page, sort of very simplified front page, big button that says meeting agendas and board packet.
And, the other thing that'd be helpful is have some fanfare over this website redesign, I don't know how we do it, but we should really inform the public, whatever it is.
There's a way to get to things to
To
document.
make sure, people are turned off by it.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not using it because it's very difficult to use. So I think that we really need to market this to the public, we can work with,
Mr. McGinnis.
Mr. McGinnis and those and really put links in and other sources to make sure that maybe even have balloons and cake or something.
Our free pizzas.
We roll out at PHS, sponsored by PHS.
There you go.
Long time coming.
Yes, very much.
We're excited about it. Any other questions regarding this?
So the annual cost is $33.60,
Yes, $3,360.
and this is the same company
Yeah. So
as
which
the
means
website. I mean,
Yeah.
I had a question.
it is, and then it will all sort of work together with it too. So it will hook it. So when we pass a board agenda or we pass like an ordinance tonight, you can have the ordinance in front of you. Clerk will have her portal there. She can type her minutes right in the portal. It will create a set of minutes right as she goes. When it's approved, she can click the submit button there. It will then send it to the codifier. It'll be on the codifier website. So
All
it's
integrated.
got a little plus because we're working in the same group, but yeah, it's all integrated together. We like it though, because we'll have one spot for getting agendas out, where it's not just one person typing a Word document.
So which subscription are we going with on the premium?
Yes, yep,
And that's what so what discount do we get? The 20%?
correct. That's what that's the number in the ordinance reflects that discount.
What's the difference between the ultimate? I mean, I'm looking at.
The ultimate allows live, it's more for, I think, larger municipalities maybe, or maybe not Illinois municipalities, but it allows, I think, voting online you can do voting at your board meetings. You can actually use or click a button to vote. You're not allowed to do that in Illinois. It has, I think, I think it's for a larger municipality, I think. It's got some more features that we don't necessarily use. It hooks into a live broadcast platform if you had your own public TV channels. It's got some bigger features that we don't necessarily need for that, so. And this was actually the lower version or whatever was actually the one that Civic recommended based on what we use anyways. They weren't trying to push the bigger one.
Any
One
others?
last thing I'll say.
Okay.
Is that it will also do the ZBA. So that's another difference too, is that the bigger one has essentially a limited number of types of meetings, but this has two. So we'll have the board/committee, and then the ZBA meetings will be based on this platform. So you'll have access, a lot easier access than I think we currently do to get agendas and to get the board packets and what presented to the ZBA. And then see, okay, this was the vote coming from ZBA to the village board. So that's sort of another nice feature of it is we'll have a little more consistency on our various meetings we have.
So the liquor commission, village board and committee all be the first meeting body. 'Cause that's
Yeah,
what- that's
yes,
the-
correct,
that's what
yes,
I was
it's essentially
looking at.
considered, yeah, it's
It's like
you
you got
here
council.
in this room are the first meeting body, and then it'd be a whole separate group, which is the CBA. Yep.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I had that same question. Yep.
How would we incorporate police and fire stuff?
We certainly could, it's, if they would like to use it as well. I haven't talked to the police and fire about it, they sort of operate independently, but if they want to, it's an additional, I think, $200 or $300 for an additional meeting. Type a year, certainly could do that if they are interested in, it'd be very easy for them to do it as
Might
well.
just ask them.
Yeah, yep,
All the other committee, I think.
yeah, I guess you're right, yeah, yep, certainly can,
For
It's a good question.
Yeah.
Yeah, really.
yep.
That's a good question. Can we have a vote?
All right, this is the roll call for the suspend of the rules. It's Malaco,
Yes.
Babcock,
Yes.
Wright,
Yes.
Eddie,
Yes.
Locke,
Yes.
Simon.
Yes.
Thank you.
Now the vote to approve the resolution. 2024-06, going with Civics Plus. Annual cost $3,360.
So moved.
Second.
Petty,
Yes.
Babcock,
Yes.
Simon,
Yes.
Wright,
Yes.
Locke,
Yes.
Malaco.
Yes.
Thank you.
Next, item 11, old business. The Village of Roscoe. 11.1, fiscal 2024 annual budget in printed form. Last go around, there were items that we went through and we changed. And there is a gap between revenue and spending of about $3 million. So like a general consensus, you wish to close the gap. If so, there are suggestions that we can do. Purpose for closing the gap would be not spending those funds where we think we can cut this year or postpone so that we can earmark those unspent dollars for growing the matching grant line item that we will be facing should any of these grants that we're applying for come to pass. It takes some time to accumulate those substantial dollars. As we've heard before, those grants usually are an 80-20 split with the exception of the OSLID grant. So there are some items that we had put in and we had over booked, shall we say, for them, overestimated prices. So we can cut those back and those dollars can just be shifted to, as I said, line items that are designated grant line item, matching fund item. So first, is there a consensus for narrowing the gap? Where we take a look at how we might do that. You don't narrow the gap, you're spending, you'd have to shift from the general fund to cover those expenses. And then, or spend down, I use the word savings that you would have available for matching grants. So where's your priority?
Yeah, but just as it sits, it's close to $1.8 million above our reserve
I
policy.
don't know if that's correct. Do you know what our current? I we talked a little bit,
Reserve policy.
the current, not reserve policy, the current fund balance that we apply to is.
Yeah.
You got that there, because I think the numbers that,
The unassigned.
Yeah.
3,666,296.
okay, so you've got in yours, and what's been on this budget is that 7.4 something. For the fund balance, I don't know if that's, it's much closer to the $3 million amount, so. When you're looking at it or thinking about it too, you realize that we're talking about a difference of like 3 million or so, not the 7 million that this discussion, or that's listed on your budget. That's-
So you just lost me, I guess.
So you've got
Which of these numbers is supposed to be? Like,
So you're saying our estimated fund balance at 12/31 wasn't 7,498,000?
correct.
It's
It should
only
be
3
closer to
million?
3 million something for the estimated fund balance, yep.
What we can do is
that's
we
so
can
far off.
lay this over until we have some more corrected information.
Right.
I think that's.
I think that's automatically.
Yeah, that's a lot of money to do.
Yes, I think, and talking to Mark tonight, looking at how it's written in, I think it was probably a misread when the budgets were put together, or a misunderstanding maybe about what the different numbers were in the financials for that portion.
So this fourth draft does reflect our last budget discussion.
The things that,
Yeah.
yes, things that we've added or eliminated or cut back, but we still don't have accurate numbers.
We have accurate numbers by the first meeting in February.
We have accurate numbers, I mean, I guess the question is too, what we want, like, it's the accurate numbers, but we need to
Need to know your.
pull down some of these, I think,
Yep.
yeah. I think it's not so much accurate numbers as we might want to reduce some of these.
Some of the
Bylaws.
allocations that were in there, back to the first question. Your priority, is it to spend on all of the things that were identified as maybe needed? Are there some areas that we could pull back on? And those dollars that we pull back are earmarked for matching funds. For example, in here is an allocation of $500,000 for property purchases in the village of Roscoe. It's not likely that we're going to go ahead and do that for the year 2024. So might it not be better based on the historic practice of what we had purchased in the past? All of you are familiar with kind of the dollar amount we spent, about 200,000. So have that as a placeholder and not an additional 300,000 because we're not going to do it. Second example can be taking a look at some of the other things that we overestimated. Placed into this was funding for officers number 19 and 20, but based on the pacing and how that's going to happen, we will have 18 sets of boots on the ground in 2024, but not likely to have 19 and 20. And that can be pushed off for 2025 budget. There's the desire to grow, but we've heard that we can provide the services at a stellar level that we currently do with getting to that 18. So if you realistically look at what you can hire in 2024, it can be numbers 17 and 18, and then 19 and 20 pushed off to 2025 because the economic picture will be a little different. So why set aside, and I'll just throw out a number, salary and benefits, that might be about $200,000. So that can be earmarked. Third example, some other things that we can shift around or postpone. Some of the repairs that were here at the building, when we talked about walkway versus a handicap door. We've lived without a handicap except a push door for 10 years, 1 more year isn't that critical versus the sidewalk here. Those types of things. So you can go through this list and ask yourself, what is absolutely needed for 2024? What were the gee, it would be nice to have 2024, but we can live without them until 2025. And try to close that gap, shifting those dollars.
Additional roads, I don't.
Oh, that was another one too. We had already decided before we knew these numbers, we thought we'd had another $250,000 that we could add to the residential road program for Hidden Creek. Maybe scale that back, just simply do promontory and forget Hidden Creek for 2024, push that into another year.
You know, this is
Those types of
my,
things like that.
it's not our, obviously the first time through this. But we spent all this time going through a budget where we were thinking these numbers and all of a sudden, if I'm understanding was right, it's $4 million off.
That's,
It's like,
well,
we
Yeah, that's a
spent,
different, sorry, that's a different issue. I mean,
so I guess I'm missing something here
we're
because
currently
that
at
seems
3
like.
million, we currently have a difference, ignoring the fund balance portion of it that we were talking about. There's a $3 million difference between revenues and expenditures. So the question is, do you want to appropriate, additional 3 million than we currently have coming in? Which is fine to do, realizing though that we've got a $3 million gap there that we either need to transfer from the general fund or just.
Do we have
more
the
likely
money
cut back.
do we have the money to fill that gap?
yes, but if you
Yes.
do that, then if you get a grant a year from now
Then
and
you
you have to
don't
come
know.
up with
Yeah.
$5 million, is, okay, where is it?
Yeah.
Type thing.
So it's.
So it.
Yeah, I think, like you said earlier, we need to postpone this so we can have more discussion about it, because I'm not familiar enough with this to make any kind of yes or no's on anything. Other than what we've been going through is the line items and
Yeah.
Mhm.
approving a budget based on numbers that we thought were.
I guess the
fitting in.
I think the numbers are correct. I think the majority of the numbers in the budget are correct for those. We're talking, it's not so much they're incorrect numbers, it's that we're sort of maybe overspending, right? Overspending what we're going to do. A lot of projects you want, a lot of things you want to get done. X amount of dollars. So it's, do we want to just appropriate the full amount and say, okay, as we go make a decision, which is a possibility, we can do that. As we go throughout the year and we get quotes in and we get projects coming in, we can discuss more. And it's already appropriated, but then knowing that we're gonna have to make those hard decisions.
So fundamentally, we'd be compromising if we got a grant, because then we wouldn't have the money for the grant.
How much you wanna dip into your savings?
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to.
How much you wanna dip into?
So again, we need to have another
Yeah.
discussion about this
Agreed.
tonight.
Are our revenues not right in this then?
Well, that's what I don't get, because our pooled cash says 8,496,000, that's what we have, right? We have $8,496,000.
So that's for sure.
Okay, but
Which means,
For sure. I personally don't know what a sign for subsequent year budget is, so I just asked Steve, but that's something the auditors put in there, but. You have 6 million, but there's more than just the general fund there, you know what I mean? Like you have 1.29 million in special revenue funds that are outstanding, capital project money. Just things like that. There's some unearned revenue in the project fund for 1.4 million that needs to be, recognized, stuff like that. So there might be, I think him and I are gonna meet. Cause I haven't been part of this. Him and I are gonna meet.
money we
I'll-
actually
I
have
can go through
access
this
to,
with
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, that's what we're going to be meeting.
because I think that would help us decide what
Yes,
projects
exactly.
we want to move forward
Yes,
with.
understandable, which is why
I need to
I
know.
apologize, yes.
Yeah,
This just sort of came up here, right? Digging into the whole budget this last week here. And this is sort of coming up where, what is this budget made of? That's why I need to meet Mark, we need to go through this and really getting a good idea of where we stand currently.
Is this partly a function of, we have a new budgeting system and we're not using it yet? Will
No,
that clarify?
It will, that will, yes.
Will it clean up some of
That's
this?
cleaning up for next year, absolutely, yes.
as well as starting earlier
Yeah, I've been-
and getting clearer direction from all of you.
For years, we had a different system for this budget that, an idiot like me can. Go through and just look at it.
I'm saying, yeah, I
No, I understand.
Yes.
I'm calling myself
Yeah,
out,
no,
but
it's-
it should be simplified. Anybody
It's a
out
lot.
there should be able to pick this up and go and look at it and know exactly what's happening.
There's a lot of manual.
It's difficult for us. It's gonna be difficult for anybody on the street.
I think we need to send this back to committee, so we
That's
can
fine.
discuss it and figure this
When
out.
do we need to when's the date we need to decide on this budget?
March, end of March
End of March.
Second meeting in March then?
is the official,
dead date.
the drop dead, like, the legal,
Right.
yeah.
Again, March,
We have to have,
You got 30
it's gotta be the
days.
first, yeah, the first quarter.
So we're
But
in
it's-
agreement to send it back to committee.
It sounds like, yeah.
Thank
And
you.
then we'll be able
With
to go.
accurate numbers.
Is there anything, I guess, if you don't mind, while we're here, is there anything you would like us to look specific, or actually, you can get a hold of me outside of this, you like, send me a message about it, or call me, but things, any specific things you want to know more about, or want me to get additional information about in this budget, let me know, and I'll try to dig down into those more.
I'd like to ask though informally, is there a consensus here of growing the savings, so to speak, for matching grants?
What's the percentage of getting the matching grants? If there's no percentage.
No
that we get-
likelihood, is that what you
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, yeah.
There's no likelihood of us ever getting a
Yeah,
grant?
so then, we save it for the rainy day. It's kind of like me saving my silverware from wedding day and saying, well,
Right.
someday I use them. You know what? I'm sorry, using it now.
But however,
But do you have any prognosis? I mean, what's the risk? Do we get grants? Is it pretty easy? Because when we went to the R1 meeting, what we heard was the money that we pay in on taxes that they used to give us 10%. Now it's down to like 4% and it's never gonna change.
so
So,
that's different. That's
but
the,
nevertheless, that's all money.
if
that we
Osler
should-
comes through, that's 600,000 right there.
that's
If we
already
go after
accounted.
any other grants for downtown Main Street,
But you do bring up a very good point. The state of Illinois has its own financial difficulties and it seeks to claw back dollars from the municipalities.
It's money we
Right,
pay in.
and that's separate from grants that you might get from the federal government or other.
But it's
pools.
not separate from the money that we have to save to get the grant,
Yeah.
which is my point.
Yes,
So if we don't have the money, but if we're never gonna get the grants because none exist, then I don't need to be saving for something that I'm never gonna have to pay for. So and I have no background on how successful we are at getting grants.
We don't have a high track record here.
we haven't
But
gone,
is it-
we haven't gone after.
And we're going after it, right?
Yes.
I mean, I understand saving the money for grants, but you do start to fall into that category of you're taking tax dollars in and you're not spending them on the people. So
Maybe we should qualify the grants that are the high priorities. So we. can
Well, maybe a
focus-
list of grants that we're actually looking at, how much we're actually talking, that we need to, if we were to bank against all the grants, what is that dollar amount?
Maybe that's something to add, Joe, to
Okay,
your
I
question.
think we have some information. I know we've, I mean, obviously, we know that, we know. There's we know quite a few that we're going for, Fair Grants working with us on some of our grants. So we do, so I think we can probably get a number in there. Here's the numbers we're looking at and what these grant percentages are. So you've got that.
I think when we know that, we know how much money's in our wallet, then we can tell Carol how much we would be considered maybe cutting back or looking at. I don't think we can answer Carol till we know the rest.
We don't have a crystal ball knowing when these grants come up. I get emails every week from
yes.
a list of, from certain politicians, a list of grants that are available each week,
Every week.
every week.
Oh, yeah.
And so how do we go after those?
We are, I mean,
Every
part of
week?
it's when we see ones that are applicable to our projects, right?
Exactly, but you don't
That's
know
when we
what's
go,
coming up in
okay.
6 months.
And Bridget is going to do that from Fairground?
She's doing this current one, next time, yeah, we'll get the proposals when they come up, next ones come up, yeah.
Bridget handles those. She is very close with all of the IDOT funding opportunities, federal funding opportunities. And as soon as we submit a list of projects for our clients to Bridget, and if projects come up that she sees in the list of projects that she thinks is applicable, she notifies the project manager, the client manager, and then we come to, like, for instance, this raised grant, things like that. We would come to the village and say, hey, we think this is a good fit for a grant proposal. Would you like to seek funding for this?
Our one,
The project manager would be Joe.
no, project managers.
So, so whoever is the fair grant contact with them, like the village or the city.
So, and she's on a contractual.
She's there,
She works for, she is the,
Yeah, I understand that.
yep.
She's been around for a long time.
Yeah, and her track record is pretty good. I don't know the exact percentages, but and she does, and if we're ever unsuccessful at a grant, one of the things that she does is she reaches out to the grant administrator and gets a summary of the scoring and gets reasons why we may or may not have been selected. So that future grant applications, we can get better at those as well.
We
So,
had some fairly, and she's worked with us before, we had some fairly large grants in the past. American Aluminum was a lot of grant money from the state,
The sewer, running up the sewer.
sewer and roadway as
Yeah.
well. And then also with,
She did that.
she was our grant administrator for that.
I
grant.
do
Yeah.
remember meeting her.
Also,
I've
R
been
one
there.
is also another, R1, I think you mentioned, somebody mentioned that tonight. We're gonna be working with them to get grant applications and grants when those come up. I would like to start doing
So,
more. I would
she's
like
an
to start
independent
working more for
contractor
grants,
and we
so
pay her
that's it.
separate. Not
you know,
through,
she is an employee of Fair Grant.
so we don't pay her separately.
But
This is our
the
grant.
proposal for the grant, that you're
Yeah.
essentially signing a contract with Fair Grant, but Bridget is the facilitator
Okay.
of that project.
Like the one we did tonight, Bridget will be the one who's doing most of the work and coordinating the work. Yeah.
So the one we did tonight, the full construction of that project, do you have an estimated dollar amount?
So our original project estimate, I think, was around $8 million for the bike path. The engineering of that, which is about 16% based on what IDOT guidelines are for design. I think that was just over $1 million. Now we have to refine that. We didn't really do the coordination with the county upfront like we should have. Originally, they agreed and wrote us a supporting letter stating that they supported the project, but we're going to get into more of those details and refine that cost estimate for this grant application for the raise grants.
So say $8 million total project. It'd possibly be an 80-20, but we would split half of it with the county.
Potentially, yep.
So it'd be 10% for us, which would be what, $800?
500, yeah.
And initially, it's gonna be the split would be just for the engineering. So this is just for the engineering part of it.
Correct. So it should-
Well, I understand.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
just
yeah.
trying to break it down
Even
so
the
everybody
initial
gets an
split,
idea
yeah.
of what a full scale.
Yeah, no, it's,
You know, like how much
not
money
the-
we really need to have.
So baseline is 20% is what you want to save for any grant opportunities. There are certain grants that for disadvantaged communities, certain factors might get you up to 100% funding level, but it's not very often. 20% is the standard threshold that all grant administrators recommend saving for.
I just want to add, we have spent substantial dollars on design review for 3 major projects. And to not have a plan by which we can meet the grant portion that is our responsibility is like having a chair with one leg missing.
Can we
And
do
let me,
bonds to
let me
get that
finish
money?
1 minute, please, before your question. Also part of this grant oversight is, David Sidney's organization, which will focus on Main Street. And when we talk about dollar amounts, Main Street was pegged a couple of years ago at over $14 million. And let's not forget the $6 million price that would be totally the village's responsibility unless we got some funds elsewhere of putting the utilities underground. And to even begin that engineering study was something like $200,000. So there are big numbers out there. So your suggestion of, okay, these are all the projects that we want to go after. Here are the estimated costs the last time we did it. What would be our responsibility should any of the grants bring down on us and go after them as many different places as we can, coordinate them? Your question.
2 questions. One, I would say that we are not gonna see as a village a big influx of money based on the structure of a village. So can you do a bond, propose a bond to fund these? Or secondly, is that where the 501Cs raise money to contribute to these activities that are benefiting the community?
the answer is.
Because I don't think all of these things, they're desirable for the community, but we have to have other vehicles of
Right.
raising the money to meet the bond. I mean, if you went to the community and said, hey, we got $8 million, we gotta come up with 20%, but this is what the village is gonna get and and we don't have that money. Then the constituents have to be on notice. They say, well, don't do it but that's a lot of money to get. That would motivate people. So I don't know the answer to that. My question is there other ways to finance attractive besides the current tax revenue and other things that we have? You know, in the past, based on what I learned at the R1 meeting, all the taxes we pay goes to the state, and that's why we get it back from them. But now, instead of getting 10% back of the money that we pay in taxes, now we're getting 4% back, and it's not gonna change. To support Chicago is essentially what I took away from that meeting.
And historically, the village of Roscoe tried 2 times to get a sales tax increase passed. That would have gone for infrastructure projects such as this, and it failed, but it may be worth trying again. If there, if
Is that something
if
we
we
do?
could, no,
So,
I think,
We
yes,
started, we
yes,
initiated.
yes and no,
Yeah.
but to your point, you would need to involve other people.
Yeah.
Other people would have to have the buy-in to make it successful.
Exactly, and this is where we develop a plan that's gonna benefit the community, then you could promote it with our website and the boundary place. We have a marketing message we can promote, and then we can have other mechanisms to pay for this, because it's certainly based on what I've learned tonight, based on what we have to save, if we got the grants, we don't have the money, and we gotta have other vehicles to raise that money. Unless, Carol, you could just write a check for the
I'll
difference.
do that tomorrow.
It's on record. No.
Can we call
I
a vote
guess,
on that?
do we know,
No,
like today, is there any grants available for Main Street? Like if we were to start writing one next month,
Yes.
is there? some
Was
that we can
there
do?
an opportunity for funding, or one of us come available?
There are, I mean, there's the Main Streets program for different parts of it. So there are, and we will start working through those.
So
The first question of David Sidney next
Yeah.
week, give us a list.
If it's 80-20 at $15 million, it's $3 million we would need for that project if we had.
And these are, and a lot of the grants right now are different portions of that. They may be bringing in the small businesses, they may bring, it's the
Right.
portions we're seeing a lot. I don't know if there's any infrastructure ones, like, or
That's
the
what I mean.
rebuilding, yeah,
Seems
Right
to
now.
me that the village should have its own little slot machine thing going.
should.
And we may need to focus and target on the grants. We can't just
Exactly.
shotgun approach and put it out there for $80 million and think we're gonna take 20% of that, because no matter what, we're not gonna have that kind of money.
Right.
So we need to be more focused and directed on these things.
There is one, come on.
So where are we? There's the suggestion to come back in 2 weeks with revised, accurate,
Do we need
not
to
accurate,
make a
revised.
motion to send it back to committee?
That's. I have one more question too, I guess, too, is just here, good, clear, I know, like, good, clear thing on this. So are we trying to aim to close that $3 million deficit? Would you like to have closer in, right?
I'd like
That's
to see-
generally the direction.
I'd like to see the numbers
Okay.
first.
Yep.
Thanks. And then go from there.
Okay.
What's in my wall?
We need to. If it's that far off, I have to see the numbers.
What's in the wallet, what we're looking for, and we can decide how much she'll do.
Okay. Moving on, item 12, public comment.
Oh, the old business.
Make a motion to send that.
Wait, just wait for old business, one more, I wanna know where we are in the house.
Oh, okay.
Oh, the closing?
Yeah,
Oh. do we have a
the
date?
birdhouse.
We gotta have a closing for it, but we guys. I don't know this date scheduled yet, but it's moving forward. They've got an attorney now who's helping get everything set. We got the environmental back. So that's clear. So we are good to close. So we'll have it closed shortly, week or two. But we got everything back. We received everything back that we need to get back to actually have it closed out.
And you're gonna work on that list and stuff and that for me, right?
Yes, yep. Stacy or Trustee Malcolm's requested, I gotta talk about this before, about a list of all of the village properties we have currently, so you can all see it. We'll get that. I want to do a list of parks for everybody, so you can see what parks we
Yeah, I
have,
wanna see
properties.
All, a map with all the village property, parks, village hall, and I'd like to see what we spent from right here to date on property, just so we know where we're at.
I would like something added to the budget, and that is demolition of the little birdie house.
I have demolition in the budget. I've done
Do
it,
you?
I've sort of done a revised version myself a little bit, updated the budget. I had demolition costs for,
Well, I know, I
For-
saw
for-
that.
For one.
Yeah.
And
The
Okay.
little
Correct.
Anything else under old business?
Do we need to formalize sending the budget back to the committee?
We can do that. I gotta be trying to act on that.
I'll make a motion that we send 11.1 back to the committee.
Second,
Are you with us?
Yeah, ready,
Okay.
right,
right.
Yes, I'm sorry, I couldn't,
Hetty,
Yes.
Malaco,
yes.
Clock,
Yes.
Lima,
Yes.
Babcock.
Yes.
Thank you.
Item 12, public comment. Any public comment? No? Yes, Cindy, right? Yep. First and last name, please, for the Bemis. Last name Bemis, Bemis. Okay. I just kind of like wanted to, my family's been in the area since the 30s. We're a big farming family. We have a lot of ground in the area. We have the ground behind Schnucks that we farm. We farm by the landscaping area. We have a farm on Rockton Road that's still part of Roscoe Township. We know a lot of the old farming families that have been in the area that have kind of established Roscoe. I think that it's just my opinion, but talking to some of them, that there are some farm grants out there that kind of push a village forward. And you've got a lot of big farm families that if you could incorporate them into the group somehow, which I'd be willing to help with, might bring some added funds to the village.
Sounds good. Thanks for
Department of
that.
Agriculture.
Yeah, so I mean, because look, a lot of the people that go to the firehouse, the you know, to the train, those are all old farm families. And they don't want to see Roscoe not being able to succeed either. Everybody knows that it's gonna push forward. I mean, myself, I know that we're not gonna have that ground behind Schnucks forever. But they want it to be in a positive way. And they're not against the board. They just don't feel like they're incorporated in trying to help it push forward. And those families have been in this area forever. They just, if they can have some input, I think you might have some resources there that you haven't utilized yet. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll talk to you right after the meeting here, get your information. I'll give you a call, make
You have
it.
names and numbers or
Oh, pardon?
names and numbers that we could,
Yep, I'm Joe.
perfect. Thanks, Joe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other
Awesome.
public comment? Item,
Troy goes.
oh,
I just wanted,
sorry.
just wanted to give a little update on the storm last week.
Oh,
Waiting for the new trustees. They don't really, know, it's their first one they kind of been through or whatever, being on the board. But, we worked over 631 hours. There was 341 tons of salt, which is a little low, because that last storm, we really didn't salt too much because it was coming down so fast. Otherwise you just be pounding your salt right back off the road. And 1,002 gallons of fuel. And also the total cost of everything, if you want to know what that is later or now or whatever.
sure.
Total cost with, for the hours, the salt and the fuel is $56,769.
And I might add, I think your group did an admirable job. It was the most horrendous of conditions. Over 60 hours, is that what they were saying on TV, of sub-zero weather, precipitation and wind. And things got passable and improved. So thank you guys for us. It was remarkable. And the safety is a concern and you guys rose to the occasion. The only casualty was a couple of weeks ago, mailbox. That was it. Phenomenal.
I've only had a couple of those. Which is good.
How many trucks actually running up snowplows?
We have 7 different plow routes. There's 8 big trucks. Couple of the smaller 550s go out. I was actually out in the big new end loader with the plow on there. And usually like for like our first shift crew, it's like kind of like 8 to 9 people, and then the second shift is we just try to keep things open. We usually have like 6 people, 5 people doing it.
But altogether, you got 7 trucks running.
Oh, no, there could be possible, we have like 14 trucks total,
Okay.
but usually it's like 8 of the big ones that have the big trucks.
I think it also goes to the leadership and the camaraderie and the willingness of your whole team to pull together and get the job done. People doing what they need to do and doing it well. So thank you.
And thank your staff.
Yes, definitely.
Good job.
Any other public comment? Executive session, may I have a motion to go into executive session for update on legal matters pending litigation?
Babcock,
Yes.
Lima,
Yes.
Clock,
Yeah.
Wright,
Yes.
Eddie,
Yes.
Malaco.
My office.
Yeah.
Oh, you don't.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Hey, Stephanie? Hey there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Got your note. Got it ordered. I got your note.
Okay,
We got it. Yeah, we're ordered.
whatever we have.
Oh,
You're adjourned.